There is a rare kind of mind in this world. The mind that does not just look at life, but looks into it. The mind that doesn't rush to speak, but listens first. Listens deeply to the silence between words, the spaces between moments, and the truths behind appearances. These are the deep thinkers, the quiet observers, the ones who see what many overlook and feel what others ignore. Deep thinkers aren't detached from the world, they simply live in a dimension where meaning matters more than noise, where depth matters more than speed, where clarity matters more than comfort. They are not overwhelmed by thoughts, they are shaped by them. Each thought is a doorway, each idea a new landscape, each reflection a journey inward. To be a deep thinker is not to be distant, it is to be fully awake. Awake to the subconscious currents guiding human behavior, awake to the patterns repeating across time, awake to the invisible forces that build character and destiny. While others seek distraction, deep thinkers seek understanding. While others chase validation, deep thinkers chase truth. And while others fear solitude, deep thinkers grow inside it. Deep thinkers see the world differently because they feel the world differently. They do not just witness emotions, they study them, translate them, and learn from them. They know that the mind is not an enemy to be feared, but a universe to be explored. They realize that intuition is not magic, it is the subconscious speaking. And they understand that depth is not a burden, it is a gift, but this depth comes with a price. Deep thinkers often walk alone, not because they reject others, but because the world rarely understands the weight of their inner world. They question everything, beliefs, motives, patterns, reactions, even their own thoughts. They rebuild themselves again and again until truth feels like home. They are the architects of insight, the guardians of inner wisdom, the ones who turn silence into clarity, pain into meaning, and reflection into transformation. The psychology of deep thinkers is not about being smarter, louder, or faster. It is about being more aware, more conscious, more connected to the inner world that shapes the outer one. If you are a deep thinker, never apologize for your depth, never shrink for the comfort of others, never dilute what makes you different. Your mind is not heavy, it is powerful. Your silence. Deep thinkers observe life beyond the surface because their minds are naturally drawn to the layers hidden beneath what most people accept as obvious. They are not satisfied with appearances, quick judgments, or superficial explanations. When they look at a situation, they sense the invisible threads connecting events, emotions, and intentions. A simple conversation is not just a conversation to them, it is a map of tone, body language, energy, and meaning. They see the hesitation behind someone's smile, the unspoken truth behind someone's anger, and the vulnerability behind someone's silence. Their perception moves slowly but deeply, like water seeping into every crack, absorbing every detail that others might dismiss as irrelevant. They observe people not to judge them, but to understand them. They watch how someone thinks, reacts, avoids, or protects themselves. They notice when someone's words do not match their actions, or when someone's confidence is only a mask hiding an old wound. Deep thinkers pay attention to motives, patterns, and contradictions because they know that human behavior is rarely accidental. They recognize that every action has a root, every reaction has a history, and every personality has a story waiting to be uncovered. While others see behavior, deep thinkers see the psychology behind behavior. They see the experiences that shaped someone long before they ever walked into the room. Their ability to observe beyond the surface is also what makes them sensitive to the subtleties of life. They feel shifts in atmosphere that others are unaware of. They sense tension in a room even when no one speaks. They detect sincerity, dishonesty, insecurity, and strength without needing explicit proof. This sensitivity makes them cautious with their energy. They are selective about who they allow close because they can sense how people truly are beneath the persona they project. They know when someone carries unresolved chaos, when someone is quietly suffering, or when someone is full of warmth and authenticity. Deep thinkers often retreat into their inner world not because they dislike people, but because they feel everything too intensely. Their perception also extends to life itself. They question societal norms, routines, beliefs, and expectations instead of following them blindly. They wonder why people rush through life without ever stopping to ask if they're happy. They notice how modern life encourages distraction rather than reflection. They see how people cling to relationships that drain them, jobs that numb them, and habits that limit them. Deep thinkers observe the structures that shape human existence and challenge them internally, always asking what is real, what is meaningful, and what is worth holding on to. This deeper way of seeing makes them excellent problem solvers because they don't treat symptoms, they search for the cause. They don't accept conflict at face value, they explore the emotional wounds beneath it. They don't fear complexity, they welcome it. This is why deep thinkers often come across as old souls, wise beyond their years. Their minds don't rush, their minds reflect. They see what others avoid, understand what others overlook, and feel what others suppress. And because they observe life beyond the surface, they often discover truths that others may take a lifetime to reach. Deep thinkers value meaning over noise because their minds are wired to seek substance rather than distraction. They are not impressed by loudness, trends, or the constant rush of stimulation that the world insists on offering. Instead, they are drawn to anything that carries depth, conversations that reveal truth, experiences that bring understanding, and choices that align with inner purpose. Noise, in all its forms, feels empty to them. It may entertain for a moment, but it does not nourish. Meaning, however, gives them something to reflect on, something to learn from, something that stays long after the moment has passed. Their conversations are intentional. They don't enjoy small talk, not because they think it is beneath them, but because it doesn't connect minds or hearts. They want to talk about ideas, human nature, dreams, fears, patterns, and purpose. They want to understand how people think, what they believe, and why they feel the way they do. Gossip, complaints, and surface-level chatter feel like static that drowns out clarity. Deep thinkers crave sincerity, vulnerability, and honesty, things that reveal who a person truly is. They would rather sit in silence than fill the air with meaningless noise, because silence allows thoughts to breathe, emotions to settle, and truth to rise. This preference for meaning extends to how they live their daily lives. They seek experiences that help them grow rather than habits that keep them numb. They choose solitude not to escape the world but to hear themselves clearly. They invest time in understanding their own motives, healing their wounds, and aligning their actions with their values. The world encourages people to stay busy, to keep moving, to avoid slowing down long enough to question their path. But deep thinkers question everything: what they want, why they want it, and whether it aligns with who they are becoming. They don't chase success for applause or recognition, they pursue fulfillment. They don't follow trends for acceptance, they follow curiosity. They don't cling to relationships for comfort, they stay where they feel seen. Meaning also guides how they handle emotions and challenges. When faced with pain, they don't distract themselves to avoid it, they sit with it, examine it, and learn from it. Noise tries to bury discomfort, but deep thinkers know that discomfort often carries the lesson. They understand that healing requires reflection and courage, not avoidance. They look for the deeper truth beneath every experience, the message, the pattern, the opportunity for transformation. This perspective allows them to navigate life with a wisdom that many admire but few understand. In a world that moves fast and rewards superficiality, deep thinkers remain centered in what matters. They find beauty in authenticity, peace in depth, and strength in understanding. They are not silly swayed by opinions or pressured by expectations, because their sense of direction comes from within, not from the noise outside. Their lives may look quieter, slower, or simpler, but inside, their world is rich, expansive, and full of meaning. Solitude strengthens deep thinkers because it gives them the mental and emotional space they need to reconnect with themselves. In a world that constantly demands attention, noise, and interaction, solitude becomes their sanctuary, a place where their thoughts can settle, where their emotions can breathe, and where their intuition can speak without interruption. They don't fear being alone, they value it. When they are by themselves, they are not empty or lonely. Instead, they feel whole, grounded, and restored. Solitude is where they gather their strength, reflect on their experiences, and align themselves with their purpose. For deep thinkers, solitude is not about isolation but clarity. When they step away from social noise, they can analyze their lives with honesty. They notice what drains them, what inspires them, and what needs to change. They evaluate their relationships, habits, and goals without external influence clouding their vision. In these quiet moments, they become aware of their emotional needs and mental patterns. They understand themselves better, and this self-understanding becomes the foundation of their resilience. Without solitude, they would lose touch with the inner world that guides their decisions and nurtures their growth. Solitude also heightens their creativity. When the mind is free from distractions, it becomes a fertile ground for new ideas, insights, and solutions. Deep thinkers often experience their brightest breakthroughs when they are alone, walking in nature, sitting in silence, or reflecting late at night. Their imagination expands without limits, and they can explore their thoughts without feeling rushed or judged. They see connections between concepts, notice patterns others overlook, and discover meaning in experiences that might seem ordinary. Creativity requires space, and solitude provides that space generously. Emotionally, solitude teaches them strength. It reminds them that they do not need constant validation or company to feel secure. They learn how to comfort themselves, motivate themselves, and understand themselves without depending on others. This independence allows them to navigate life with confidence. When challenges arise, they don't panic or crumble. Instead, they retreat inward, reflect deeply, and return with clarity and determination. Their calmness is not coldness. It is the product of countless hours spent mastering their inner world. Solitude also helps deep thinkers maintain emotional boundaries. Because they are highly perceptive, they absorb the energy of the people around them easily. Crowded places, constant interaction, or emotional, intense environments can exhaust them. They sense unspoken emotions and hidden tensions, and this sensitivity can overwhelm their minds if they don't take time to recharge. Solitude acts as a cleansing space where they release the weight of others' emotions and return to their natural state of balance. In solitude, deep thinkers meet the most authentic version of themselves. They listen to their own voice rather than the expectations of the world. They explore their dreams, confront their fears, and rediscover their purpose. This inner companionship makes them stronger than people realize. Their strength doesn't come from crowds, approval, or external support. It comes from the quiet moments where they rebuild themselves from the inside out. Because solitude strengthens them, they move through life with a calm depth that others can feel, even if they can't explain it. Their emotional awareness is heightened because deep thinkers don't just feel emotions, they study them, absorb them, and try to understand where they come from and what they are trying to teach. While many people rush past their feelings or bury them under routine, deep thinkers pause and observe. They pay attention to the subtle shifts within themselves, the tightening in the chest that signals discomfort, the heaviness that hints at sadness, the spark that reveals inspiration, the tension that unmasks unspoken fears. They rarely react instantly. Instead, they reflect. They want to know the root, not just the surface. They want to understand the why behind every emotional wave, because they know emotions are not random. They are messages from the inner world. This heightened awareness also extends to the feelings of others. Deep thinkers are attuned to emotional energy the way some people are attuned to sound or color. They sense when someone is hurting, even if that person smiles. They detect frustration in a tone, insecurity in a joke, or affection in a glance. They can read the difference between someone who is distant because they are uninterested and someone who is distant because they are protecting themselves. This ability doesn't come from guesswork. It comes from years of observing, reflecting, and connecting dots. Because deep thinkers are so aware of their own emotional landscape, they can empathize with others more accurately. Their emotional awareness also makes them cautious with their interactions. They know how powerful emotions can be, so they are mindful of their words and actions. They don't like hurting others, but they also avoid people who drain or manipulate them. They set boundaries not out of coldness, but out of self-respect. They understand when their energy is being pulled in the wrong direction, and they honor that intuition. Deep thinkers are selective about who they let into their inner world because they know that emotional connection shapes the soul. They want relationships that feel authentic, reciprocal, and meaningful. Superficial connections feel chaotic and unsatisfying. They want to feel understood, not just accompanied. Their heightened emotional awareness also influences how they handle pain. Instead of ignoring sadness, they explore it. Instead of avoiding fear, they ask where it originates. Instead of pretending everything is fine, they allow their emotions to guide them toward healing. They do not hide from emotional storms. They walk into them with curiosity. They believe that every feeling, even the painful ones, has something to reveal, a truth, a memory, a need, a lesson. This willingness to face emotions head-on gives them resilience. They recover not by forgetting, but by understanding, which leads to deeper growth. This sensitivity, however, can make life intense for deep thinkers. They feel everything deeply, the joy, the disappointment, the love, the loss. Even small experiences can leave a lasting emotional imprint. But this depth is not a weakness, it is a profound strength. It gives them empathy, intuition, authenticity, and emotional intelligence that many admire but few possess. Their emotional awareness is heightened because they have learned to listen to the quiet signals within and around them. This awareness shapes their choices, their relationships, and their entire approach to life. And because they understand emotions so deeply, they often navigate the world with a wisdom far beyond their years. They constantly analyze and question everything because their minds are naturally restless, curious, and unwilling to accept anything at face value. Deep thinkers do not move through life on autopilot. Every experience, every emotion, every interaction becomes something to examine and understand. They want to know why people behave the way they do, why certain patterns repeat, why certain thoughts appear, and why certain choices feel right or wrong. This consistent need to understand is not a burden for them, it is a way of living. Their minds are always searching for truth beneath assumptions, clarity beneath confusion, and meaning beneath chaos. When they encounter a problem, they don't simply look for immediate solutions, they explore the root cause, the deeper structure of the issue. They think about how different factors connect, how emotions influence decisions, and how past experiences shape current behavior. They often replay conversations in their minds, analyzing tone, intentions, and unspoken messages. Even in their quietest moments, their inner world is active, weaving together observations, memories, and insights to build a more complete understanding of themselves and the world around them. This constant analysis shapes how they make decisions. They rarely choose impulsively because they are always aware of potential outcomes. They evaluate every path carefully. Why? Considering how it aligns with their values and long-term goals. They question whether their actions are truly their own or influenced by expectations, fears, or conditioning. Instead of blindly following norms or traditions, they ask whether those norms make sense. They challenge societal pressures and question beliefs most people accept without thought. This internal questioning isn't rebellion, it's integrity. They want their choices to be conscious, not automatic. Their analytical nature also affects their relationships. They observe patterns in themselves and others, noticing when something feels off, when boundaries are crossed, or when emotions shift. They analyze conflicts not to win them, but to understand them. They think deeply about the impact of words, the intentions behind actions, and the emotional dynamics between people. They question whether connections are healthy, reciprocal, and meaningful. This makes them selective with their relationships but deeply loyal to the ones that align with their truth. However, this habit of constant analysis can sometimes create internal turbulence. Their minds rarely rest, and they can easily get lost in overthinking. They replay memories, question decisions, and seek clarity even when none is available. But even this struggle has a purpose. Through questioning, they gain emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and depth. They grow through introspection, learning from every mistake and evolving through every confusion. Their analysis helps them refine their identity, heal old wounds, and challenge limiting beliefs. Deep thinkers question everything because they refuse to live passively. They want to understand themselves fully, understand others deeply, and understand life profoundly. Their thoughts may be heavy, but they are purposeful. Their questions may be endless, but they guide them toward wisdom. And their analysis is not a sign of doubt. It is a sign of a mind unwilling to settle for anything less than truth. Their depth is both a gift and a responsibility, because it allows them to see life with extraordinary clarity, yet requires them to carry insights that many others might never fully understand. Deep thinkers possess the rare ability to look beneath the surface of situations, relationships, and emotions. This gift gives them wisdom, intuition, and emotional intelligence that can guide them through life with a sense of purpose and awareness. They can understand people's motivations, sense unspoken truths, and recognize patterns long before they become obvious to others. Their depth allows them to connect genuinely, love intensely, and create meaning even in difficult moments. It shapes them into thoughtful, compassionate individuals who walk through life with open eyes and an open heart. But this gift also comes with a weight. When you see the world so clearly, you cannot unsee it. P thinkers often carry emotional truths that others avoid. They absorb more, feel more, and think more deeply than most people, which can be both enlightening and exhausting. They encounter life with a sensitivity that makes them vulnerable to overstimulation, disappointment, and emotional fatigue. They cannot simply ignore injustices, manipulation, or shallow behavior. They feel the impact of these things deeply, and navigating a world driven by noise and superficiality becomes a complex journey. Their depth also makes them responsible for understanding themselves. They cannot escape their own introspection. They continuously confront their fears, question their motives, and challenge their beliefs. This inner work is powerful, but it can also be heavy. Growth for deep thinkers is not passive, it is deliberate and often demanding. They are constantly evolving, shedding old versions of themselves, and striving to align their inner truth with the way they live. This process requires courage, honesty, and emotional endurance, qualities that not everyone is willing to cultivate. In relationships, their depth becomes a responsibility because they naturally give more than they receive. They listen deeply, love sincerely, and care intensely. They understand others so profoundly that people often rely on them for guidance, comfort, or emotional support. While this makes them exceptional friends and partners, it also means they must set boundaries to protect their own emotional well-being. Their empathy is a strength, but without balance it can drain them. They must learn when to help and when to step back, when to carry someone's pain and when to let them walk their own path. The depth that allows them to see the truth also demands that they live authentically. They cannot pretend to be someone they are not or stay in environments that suffocate their inner world. They feel compelled to follow purpose, seek meaning, and remain true to their values. This responsibility often leads them away from comfort and toward transformation. They do not choose the easy path, they choose the path that feels aligned with their soul. Their depth is a gift because it brings wisdom, empathy, and insight. It is a responsibility because it asks them to use that insight wisely, to heal rather than harm, to understand rather than judge, and to grow rather than hide. And even though this duality can be challenging, it is what makes deep thinkers so powerful and profoundly human. In the end, the world may never fully understand the quiet intensity that deep thinkers carry within them. But they do not need the world's understanding to know their worth. Their strength comes from the silence where their thoughts are born, from the clarity they find in solitude, and from the truth they discover within themselves. Depth is not something they choose. It is something they are, and become. See of that depth, they move through life with a wisdom that does not fade, a sensitivity that does not weaken, and a purpose that does not break under pressure. So if you recognize yourself in these words, don't dim your inner world to fit into a shallow one. Don't shrink your thoughts for people who fear what they cannot comprehend. Don't apologize for feeling deeply, seeing clearly, or thinking intensely. Your mind is not too much, it is a rare gift. Your perception is not a burden, it is a compass. And your depth is not a weakness, it is the very thing that sets you apart. Walk your path with confidence, honor your intuition, protect your energy, and remember, while the world is often loud, fast, and distracted, it is the deep thinkers who ultimately bring meaning to the noise. It is the deep thinkers who turn reflection into wisdom, solitude into strength, and inner truth into transformation. Your depth is your power. Carry it with pride.